Today we are planning our initial goat setup. As soon as we have this barn ready, we're actually getting our goats. So I'm coming down right now to kind of wrap my head around what we need to do. I wanted to just talk you all through what we're thinking right now with our barn setup. So let's start by talking about this outdoor area. This is the back of the barn, and what we're gonna do initially is fence kind of a barnyard type area, a small amount of pasture, just right in this area here. In probably March, we have a friend who's gonna come out with his post driver on his tractor, and he's gonna help us put in our large perimeter fence, our permanent perimeter fence that's gonna go around all of our pastures. Between now and then though, we need an outdoor place that the goats can come out and graze some and have plenty of space outside. I haven't entirely decided yet what this fence is gonna be. Goats are apparently really hard to fence, and we're completely new at this. So we've been reading, we've been talking to people, we've been trying to figure out what's the best solution for us. My plan eventually is to have our barn and then have kind of a lane fenced off. In the lane there'll be water and there'll be the shelter in the barn. And then to fence off our whole pasture and have sections of temporary electric fencing so we can rotate the goats through. They can go into this section, but they can always come back to their water and their shelter. Then we can close this area off and open this area. They can graze here and browse here, and then they can always come back to water and shelter. My concern with this idea, does having a permanent area where you give your goats hay and water and shelter, does having that permanent place, does that increase the likelihood that they will keep worms and parasites, and that the parasites will be in those areas in their feces, and that they'll continue to kind of reinfect themselves out of those areas, versus actually moving shelter and water to different sections? My question is that going to get rid of the parasite reducing benefits of rotating through pasture? I'd love some feedback on that if you have a lot of experience with goats. Grace is cold, she's going to the house. So here we are in the main downstairs corridor of the barn, and there are stalls on both sides of me. This area we need to clean out and clean it down to dirt. I also have this giant metal rack of some sort on the floor. I have no idea what this is. I've been racking my brain trying to figure it out. I need to get this out of here and out of the way. Now we're looking towards the back of the barn, so I'm trying to give you all some perspective. I'm talking about having this first stall on the right being our milking room, and then having a wall, the foot of which runs from here across to right here. So the goats will always be on the inside of that. And then when we milk one, we'll have a gate. We'll open the gate, let the goat come into here, and this room is a mess. It's going to have to be cleaned thoroughly and have a really nice clean floor. But my idea is to have a milking stand right here in front of the window where there'll be plenty of light. Even though it's a mess in there, it's going to be a lot of work to clean out. I want a sheltered place for milking, and the reason for a sheltered place for milking is I'd like a place where Brianna could come down, bring the kids, and there'd be a place where the baby and the kids could play in one end of the room while she milked in the other room. My vision for this whole thing is to try to make this feasible on the mornings when I'm not home. Brianna needs to come out and milk, that she actually has a pleasant, moderately sheltered room where she can bring the kids down and do her work without just freezing and being miserable on the really cold days. We're on the back of the barn again. One stall is right over here, and it actually has these concrete walls, and I think it would be the warmest spot. The other spot is this stall over here, and I don't think it would be quite as warm. It's made out of boards. I'll show you this first. Both of these would be very secure. I don't think it would be easy to escape from them. There's just this packed down cow manure in here, and I would need to get that out. I'm gonna cross this little alley. I'm gonna show you this concrete room. This is what I think we should use for the kidding room, and then also for the housing, nighttime housing for the moms and the kids, is this big concrete stall. The reason I like this is because I think this is gonna be just naturally the warmest place. This whole back wall is backed up to the soil. And from what we've learned and read, your goats don't need a really warm place. They just need a place that's not freezing cold. The temperatures need to stay in the 40s, but not down in the 30s and 20s. I think this stall, if we were to just close in this window, probably with plexiglass, and then on the other end, there's this big door opening that goes into what I want to be the milking room. I'll have to close that with boards. I think if we close that in, this place is gonna be really ideal and just warm enough. There's plenty of ventilation up here above this concrete wall. What is that? You know what I think that is? That's so cool. This is the neat thing about being on an old farm. You find stuff all the time. I think that's a handle for an old crosscut saw. Isn't that crazy? It's just sitting there on that wall. Again, on this side, there's just a packed down floor of what is cow manure, old cow manure. I've got to bust all this out of here. It looks like it's about 6 to 8 inches thick. I've got to bust this out and we'll haul it up to the garden. So whichever of these stalls we use for kidding and for nighttime housing, the other one we can use for hay storage. I'm gonna get pallets, at least pallets, and cover the floor of the hay storage area, and to keep the hay up off the ground, to keep from losing hay to moisture from the ground. And that's the basic plan. I'm gonna actually start cleaning out this middle run area right now. Brianna's down here. I'm glad because I'm getting to run some of this by her actually in person, and this is really kind of her project. It's our project, but can I show you what I was thinking in the barn?
Yeah.
What I'm thinking in here is that this area will be open to the goats.
Yeah.
And my idea, here's my idea. You tell me what you think about this. So this is what I'm thinking of for the milking room, is this concrete room.
Yeah.
Because it'd be warm enough the kids could hang out in it while you were milking.
I love that idea. We'll have to close that up.
Yeah, that'll be boarded up.
Okay.
So it seems like Brianna liked those ideas enough that I can start moving forward on these projects. We're gonna really try to show you all just what we're doing every day. We have a lot of work to do in between my work and all the Christmas activities we're doing. We have a lot of work to do to get these projects done. We really only have like 3 days to do this stuff if we're gonna get the goats around Christmas. We can wait for a week or two after Christmas if we need to take that time. We just want to get them before they kid, so we have them here, and so that the lady we're buying them from doesn't have to deal with the kidding process, because they're really going to be our goats. Hey girls, are you leaving now?
Yeah.
Okay. So Bree is actually taking the girls to do a project, so my work is done out here. I didn't really do much work, but what we did do is kind of cement where we're gonna do what in the barn, so I'm able to move forward on this project. So I think that was a success. Something kind of funny, earlier I was talking about how hard it is to keep goats in fences. That reminded me of a story. The last animal residents of this barn were actually goats. And the reason they were in this barn is because the neighbor, who's related to the guy who sold us the house, he had gotten goats to try to keep his pastures in shape and keep all the brush down, and the goats escaped so many times from his fences that he decided to get rid of them. So he actually locked them in this barn area. He closed both of the gates and had them locked in there, and then he sold them. So hopefully we'll have better luck than his. And I think it really is going to come down to getting our fences right and getting our whole setup right, and that's what we're going to do. Now we've got a nice pile for the compost and a nice pile of rocks. Hey, bright boy.
Ready?
All right, I hope you ladies have fun.